Chapter 140 Research Results. My diet had become more diverse. Previously, with every meal, the dessert had been fruit, but now there was also cake. It's wonderful to be alive. I had decided to make Sunday and other public holidays special because I had grown tired of eating too much every day. It was a satisfying life. When I had just reincarnated into a slime, I had never thought about leading such a luxurious lifestyle. If there are no problems with the East Empire, I could immerse myself in my hobby. But thinking about it recently, Vildora, some sympathizers, and I had all thought something like, should we attack at the same time as the declaration of war? Although there were some who didn't agree with the wait and see approach. If you think about it, it's easier to attack than it is to defend. The spread of out defensive forces might not have enough soldiers to protect along the planned invasion route. On the other hand, only deploying the reconnaissance unit to decide the route had a large risk of turning into an attack. It's expected that they would not invade from the Dwargon Kingdom territory. The neutral country, the arms nation Dwargon, possessed a standing army equipped with highly technological armaments. The country's entry and exit points were also more suitable for defense and not for an attempt to seize the city with a large army. Therefore, it could be said that the country itself was a natural fortress. The sea route was also not an option. The number of the ships might not suffice, and there were also large, demonic sea monsters infesting the high seas. It was difficult to meet the requirements and gain a foothold for sea combat, so the risk would be too high, and the route would not be chosen. More simply, it was unknown whether the ship could sail the sea safely or not. Similarly, the mountain range inhabited by the dragons was also not an option. In the end, the only option left was the route that passed through the Great Gura Forest. When it came to this, the possible routes that could be selected for military mobilization were three, but one of those routes was an area adjacent to the Dwarf Kingdom. I think it wouldn't be used for an unauthorized invasion due to the fear of a pincer attack from Tempest and Dwargon. In the end, the other two routes are the most probable for invasion. The army, in theory, would be divided into to handle the two routes. However, was it really going to be that simple? I couldn't help but to think about it. If the Emperor really mobilized as expected, was the Empire underestimating Tempest, or it was because they possessed a large army? Which one was true? Anyway, those were my thoughts as a person that wasn't an expert in military affairs, but I would choose the invasion route between the two routes. A military expert would not choose easily predicted the route simply because there was no other route. No, on contrary, if there's no other route, I would not move until I gathered enough forces to to overwhelm the defenders. So I thought, if it became a battle against that large army, then splitting the war potentials was a bad plan. It was no good. I got irritated while thinking about it. As expected, we should attack, right? Or rather, when the Empire made their war declaration, was a suicide attack the right answer? The right answer might not come even if I think about it seriously. I should deal with it by adapting to the circumstances. Adapting to the circumstances. The phrase sounds wonderful. It gives the image of capable men. All right, let's go then. I made reconnaissance missions to various places, including the sea route, as a precaution, and I set up transfer magic circle in various places using the long distance communication method. The preparations for urgent mobilization were flawless. It was meant for personal use, but it was good enough for delivering reports. If there was something, then a report would come. Let's think about that later. With the conclusion reached, I stood up and went to the dining hall. I needed sweets when I used my head. Though desserts were reserved for special days and public holidays, snacks were different. I intended to ask Shuna to prepare a cake for me immediately. Sweets were my soft spot. In case I grew tired of eating sweets, I would think about it when it happened. My plan was easily overturned. Though when I saw that Sean was in the dining hall, a large smile appeared on her face when she saw me, and she presented to me the plate in her hand. I wonder what this is, this unpleasant premonition. I have been waiting for you, Rimuru-sama. Don't be so reticent, Rimuru-sama. If you ordered it with a single word, I would have prepared a cake, something similar. Okay, here you are. The taste is identical to Shina's, but it's several times bigger. Please eat it without reservation. She smiled while presenting the cake with a big lump of something that seemed to be made of konnyaku on top of it. Cake? I gazed at the object on the plate I had received reflexively and looked around, searching for help, but there was no one. Did they run away? Apparently, I had come at the worst moment. Oi, is this a cake? Yes, the taste is perfectly reproduced. Sean was brimming with confidence. But the bad feelings just increased. The taste is perfect. Then, other than the taste, the rest isn't good. I decided to eat a single mouthful while mourning my ruined plan. This was something I had decided to enjoy a post meal dessert. In the first place, this hellish situation was caused because I was a glutton, despite the fact that I don't need to eat. I scooped a bite with a spoon and put it in my mouth. I thought I vomited. It had the consistency of konjaku, but it tasted like an overly sweet cake. Looking at it, it was gray and had the texture of konnyaku. At this moment, I realized once more, for a cake, the appearance is important. No, not just cake. For any meal, the appearance is also important. Even if the raw ingredients didn't seem to have changed, I didn't think it was delicious. How is it? Is it tasty? Sean's annoyingly smug look seems to say it's perfect, right? This fellow is like that. First of all, what was cooking? She seemed to stumble for such basic point. Sit down. For now, sit down there. It's time for scolding. Eh, why? Her smug look immediately changed to watery eyes. Sean was flustered, but I don't care. After that, for approximately 30 minutes, I lectured Sean seriously about what cooking was. I finished scolding Sean and finally drew a breath. Leaving her unattended was my mistake. Sean entrusted everything to her skill and only got the resulting flavor. She might not improve during her lifetime because of this attitude. Did my scolding work? Sean promised to learn to cook from Shuna. Or rather, wasn't she already being taught by Shuna? No, no. That might just be my imagination. I was slightly anxious, but with this I was safe for the time being. I decided to think that when I came out of the dining hall after modifying my thought, I unexpectedly met Kurobe. Oh, I've been looking for you, Rimoro-sama. You were here after all. Looking for me? Was there something you needed? Yes, the previous request for a new type of weapon was completed. Kurobe reported joyfully. Request from before? Because there were a lot of because there were a lot. I don't remember which one it was. Anyway, I went to the workshop with Kurobe. The workshop was not as usual. The workshop was hot as usual. It was good that I wasn't affected by the temperature. Although the work inside seemed great, the number of people inside the workshop, including monsters, had increased. Since my previous visit, the number of apprentices seems to have increased. Yes, thanks to you, however, they still have a long way to go. The number of unstable articles produced is greater than the number of usable articles produced. The two of us entered the workshop while talking, and the apprentices noticed our voices and looked up, and then, noticing my figure, they all stood up and bowed simultaneously. I was surprised by their vigor when Kurubi saw that. You idiots, quickly return to work, he shouted in very loud voice, and the apprentices' work resumed. I might understand their feelings. It was similar to when the company president comes to your workspace, making you feel tense. It was more stressful for the people in lower positions. I too didn't have much free time even though I was the king of the country. I might be just as beautiful as them since I couldn't play freely. Even when General Manager visited my workspace in the previous world, I would have prepared with a major cleanup the day before. If it was the company president instead, then overbearing mood where failure could not be tolerated would appear. Since I understand that my household had increased, I might need to pay all the more attention when playing leisurely. But I'm sorry for coming here so suddenly, but because I think I'll probably be dropping by more frequently, please don't feel so tense. I said to them, it may be a problem if I became overfamiliar, but there was no need for everyone to be tense. I love to act big, but it wasn't very interesting if they were too intense and there was no reaction. I preferred foolish responses like Gobta's TPO attitude, corresponding to the time, place, and occasion. As long as they knew this, then it was acceptable. My words loosened the apprentice's tense shoulders. I nodded once after I confirmed it, and I went to the back room. By the way, I didn't know about it, but the reason the apprentices were feeling tense was not only because I was a demon lord. I had been chosen as one of the three major idols of Monsters Country Tempest. Well, I was unaware. It was me, Shuna, and Sean. The popularity was surprising. Besides, if Ramirez and Milim were added, it would have become something like a scramble for popularity. The rankings were internationally withheld, but I hear that Milim and I were the very best. Good grief, I was shocked when I heard it. I will do anything to hide. Well then, the articles from the previous request were shown. Kurobe confidently retrieved the box, storing the equipment, and brought it before me. The thing inside was a broad sword that gave off a powerful feeling. It was characterized by a small empty round hole on the size of a marble at the base of the sword. There were three holes. They were all located in the spot in that spot. Of course, the sword had a modest performance, but it wasn't an overwhelming weapon like those that Kurobe forged. Still, compared with the apprentice's work, it was on another level. The materials were pure demon steel. It was valuable, but didn't seem to be a special material. It may seem odd, but it was a very normal unique class weapon. It didn't seem to be enchanted with a particular magic either. This is, compared to Kurube's other work, it doesn't seem to be particularly outstanding. I asked him because I didn't understand. Kurube could forge a sword in a day, on average. The finished products would be unique class, and even when he made mistakes, the finished product would still be superior rare class. If I introduced one carefully, it would take 2 to 3 days, but I could only produce one, but I could only produce would be of unique class quality at the least. However, producing a legend class item was still a faraway dream. I haven't succeeded even though I used suitable materials. It seemed if a finished unique class weapon was used by by an expert for several years, it would evolve into legend grade by through the weapon's evolution. Therefore, it was unthinkable that Kurube wanted to show me a mere unique class weapon. Fu, you haven't realized it? It's the mechanism that Rimuru-sama had described before. When I inserted this gem into this sword's hole, then, while explaining, Kurube inserted the yellow gem like marble he'd taken from the box into the sword's hole. Then, the plain broadsword became clad in lightning magic power and transformed into a magic sword. You don't mean this is... Oi, Kurobe-chan, did you complete it? I excitedly asked Kurobe. A complacent smile appeared on Kurobe's face. Mufufufu, I did. He answered smugly. It was just like Sean's annoyingly smug look, but I wanted to praise him honestly. Suddenly, I remembered the request. If a pure demon steel weapon adapts to magic power, then if a magic gem charged with an attribute is inserted into the sword, would it turn into a magic sword? Kurobe consulted with Kaijin about this. Kaijin ended up researching with him, and thus it seemed that this was the result of the collaborative research of between Karobe and Kaijin. How is it? Did you remember? After directly condensing the magic power, we finally succeeded in refining a high purity magic stone. According to the attribute of the magic power, it can be classified into one of the four elements: earth, water, fire, wind. Let's call the magic gem that grants the attributes element core as or just core. It's possible to change the attribute by changing combination order. Naturally, you can only combine one attribute per whole. It's still in the middle of experimentation to perfect it, but there were some dangerous combinations. Also, no matter how hard we try, the maximum amount of holes is 3. Furthermore, it's questionable whether we can even create one hole for every 100 strikes. Using the normal hammering method, it's difficult to create a gap for the gem. It shames me to say it, but it was nearly impossible for the disciples to hammer a hole in the weapon. Even my 4 best disciples barely succeeded in creating a single hole. Well, if they gave up, they won't improve, and if they could create 3 holes, then they would possess the skills worthy of a legend class. That's what I believe, Kurobe explained proudly. Wonderful, it's too wonderful. Even though a magic sword was already valuable, a magic sword that could change its attribute had never existed. It was an incredible creation, though I forgot about it completely. This might be useful against the Empire. Incidentally, since the rarity greatly changes due to the number of holes, I think it would be interesting to set it as a boss drop in the labyrinth. If the apprentices could make the hole on a normal sword, the successful product would be set as the floor boss drop. I'd make the large boss of every 10th floor drop a core with random attribute. Well, that's only if the adventurers get past the 30th floor. Should I set it for the 40th floor? What do you think? Can you prepare several varieties of them? Yes, since we will manufacture the batch to be delivered to the commander class from now on, the failed products will be circulated in the labyrinth. We don't have the time or resources to produce them for rank and file soldiers, but the high quality mass produced equipment should be enough for them. There might not be a problem. I received Kurobe's ready consent, and the plan was decided. Well, the labyrinth after the 30th floor becomes a real pain. The boss of the 50th floor was Gazerl, who lacked the restraint. He was our next target. I can play happily if I don't smash the Empire quickly. I want to bring back Chloe too, and have some peace of mind already. Still, Yuki is the strength of the Empire. I want to solve the problem quickly. By the way, the Demon Steel Witch was adapting to Rimuru-sama's magic power from before. What's its condition? Will it soon adapt completely? Korobe asked suddenly. That reminded me. Though I had forgotten about it for the sake of creating my exclusive weapon. I had let the demon still mature inside of me. Yeah, it's all right. You remembered it? Yes, wait a moment. I'll take it out now. I was a bit flustered, but I composed myself so he wouldn't realize that I'd forgotten about it. The demon still shone with a rainbow color. Though I hadn't mixed it with gold, it emitted radiance brighter than orichalcums. Orichalcums. Hmm? It gave off the feeling that it had matured splendidly. How is it? Does it seem good? This is. Korobi was surprised and excited to the extent of speechless. I looked at it and appraised it a bit. Result: Divine Steel Hirokane, Ultimate Metal. So the result: it was a superior version of Orichalcum. It had a performance higher than the Orichalcum I had previously refined. Certainly it could be called the perfect metal. Hirokane, is it? Amazing. It's the transcendental myth class material. Once it gets used to the owner's magic power, every other magic power is repulsed. It seemed to be an ultimate metal which could be converted into either the strongest weapon or armor. Unfortunately, because it had to be infused with an especially dense magic power, there was only a small amount, just enough to make a weapon. And with this amount, it might only be enough to create a weapon for me. However, my exclusive katana could at last be made with this. Previously, normal weapons were unable to endure my power and would break. I had to remake the weapon many times while in the midst of a battle. It was an absurd situation. If it was broken in a critical moment, then I wouldn't have anything suitable to defend myself. I handed over the god metal, glistening with rainbow colors, to Kurobe, and requested he make a katana with it. Kurobe's eyes viewed it reverently and emitted a strange gleam of extraordinary tension and excitement. I had expected this. I left the rest in Kurobe's hands and left the workshop while thinking about the still formless katana. In 1 week, a report arrived. Kurobe had finished forging the katana. At last, a weapon made exclusively for me was completed. End of chapter 140.